Hello, I'm going to talk today about a language learning technique that I use myself. Maybe it's very well known, but I've never seen it anywhere else. I'm not sure if I invented it, or maybe it's just common sense. The idea is to write stories and remember them by heart. And they shouldn't be necessarily fantasy stories, I saw a fairy or something like this, but something that's meaningful to you and something that might come up in conversation. So, where I live, um, what I do for work, something like this. Um, about your skill in various languages. So let's start with this. Let's say we're going to talk about speaking Czech. This is going to be the story. At first, you can't say very much, so you will just write the story, which will be something like Nemlovím česky. I don't speak Czech. So your story has just two words and you remember them. And then when people are talking to you in Czech, you can just say Nemlovím česky because you know it by heart. Later on, you might learn to say, I'm sorry, but omluvám se, ale nemluvím česky. I'm sorry, but I don't speak Czech. So you elaborate your story. You get into your word processor and change your story. And remember that. So now you know how to say, I don't speak Czech and I'm sorry, but. As you improve, you may learn to say, Nemluvím moc dobře česky. I don't speak Czech very well. So you elaborate your story. Mluvím jenom pár slov. I only speak a couple of words. So now we can keep expanding the story. Nezlobte se. Now, omluvám se, ale nemluvím dobře česky, jenom pár slov. So you see the idea. And as we learn more and more and more, we keep elaborating these stories, and you may want to keep, say, 10 stories about interesting things, what I do in my spare time, and so on. And keep growing those same stories. So the stories are living stories. This is what I call the approach, memorizing living stories. And as your knowledge of the language grows, your stories grow. So you can then add in lots of these connectors that I've talked about. And as you read some texts on any topic and you see interesting words, you can highlight them and incorporate them into your stories. So imagine you learned that the word for wife is manželka. So I might say, moja manželka řekla, že já nemluvím dobře česky. My wife said that I don't speak good Czech. Then you may learn something like a synonym for wife up to a more advanced level, maybe like in English, my better half. So you modify your story. Moje lepší polovička řekla, že já nemluvím moc dobře česky, jenom pár slov. And then you could learn that the phrase for pointing out something a bit more complicated than just saying she said. So now moje lepší polovička poukázala na to, že já nemluvím moc dobře česky. Or you may see a phrase like ve smyslu, in the something like or in the sense of. So moje lepší polovička poukázala na to něco ve smyslu, že já nemluvím moc dobře česky. Then you learn, abych pravdu řekl. Abych pravdu řekl, musím říct, že já mluvím jenom pár slov. And so, the more things you learn, you put them into these stories and elaborate the stories, and those stories then contain your growing fluency. And because the stories are growing over time, you already remember most of the story, and you just have to now remember the modifications that you've put in. Your story gets richer, it lives with your experience and grows with your experience. And because you always have a useful and meaningful context to tie your new learning into, you'll remember it very well and be able to recall it very well. So this is the technique. Keep several of these stories, living stories, and modify them and remember the modifications. So the story grows, your knowledge grows, and your fluency grows. Thank you.